Yes, now family, welcome back to another video on Jazza TV. Today we're going to talk about something that I hear thrown around a lot, which I don't think that the average fan understands this and what it means and why people say it, but ring rust. It's said a lot by commentators, pundits on the telly, but when you're in a boxing, you don't understand what it's like being in the ring, or you don't know what it's like being inactive in boxing and going back in the ring after a long layoff. So it's a bit hard to understand what the terminology means, but ring rust actually means, it could mean a few things to a few different fighters. So after a fight, a lot of fighters, it's often the times where you never hear the ring rust shout when someone wins, or if you do, they had a terrible performance and he was expected to blow someone away. They never, so he says, I think it was the ring rust. Most of the time you hear it when someone's making an excuse up for somebody else, saying the ring rust hasn't helped him, he's been inactive, or the fearful that he mightn't win the fight, and they'll say it's the ring rust might get to him. They don't know if he's got any ring rust. Now, the things that can stop ring rust, and I'll explain near the end, and also the things that actually explains what ring rust is to the average fan, the armchair fan, you know. So, ring rust, to me, it could mean many different things to other fighters. I have a ring rust. So to me, what the most common one would be, the easiest form of ring rust you would say is being inactive, and for these reasons. So when you fight, it's a bit like going the fair, the theme park, as the Americans say. So if you go to the theme park, the fair, you get a bit of nerves to go on the rides, and you build up your courage, you go on the ride, and when you come off the ride, you say, I could go back on that right now. And then the longer you spend off the ride, the more you build back up that fear to go back on the ride. Now that to me is what ring rust's like. Inactivity, the longest time I've spent out of the year was probably like 8 months, nearly 9 months maybe. And I've done 7 months one time, and one time, so it's like, they are long bouts of inactivity for me. So I would obviously feel the occasion getting to you a little bit more when you're inactive. But the first 3 years of my boxing career, I had 18 fights in 3 years. That's 6 fights a year. That's one every 2 months. Obviously they weren't exactly every 8 weeks. Some of them was a month apart, some of them was 2 months apart. So in that situation, when I look back, it was all one fight. There was never a time where, until I had my first loss and I had a bit of a bout of inactivity to regroup and go again, which I needed at the time, and a rest. But yeah, it was them 18 fights. I just felt like one fight, because I was in there every other week, every few weeks, and I was always in the gym training, so therefore I was always sparring. So sparring is the next best thing to being in the ring. But when you're sparring in the gym and when you fight on the night, everything in theory is the same, but the worlds apart. And it's like the analogy of the tightrope. You can walk along a rope on the floor, but put the rope 40 foot in the air and then walk along it. It's the same rope, but now it's different, and it's a bit like that on fight night. So that's one reason. Ring rust for another reason is, I've heard people saying ring rust for reasons that not other than being for like no sparring. So I haven't sparred in the gym, so I'm a little bit rusty, because they've spent so long out of camp, gone into a camp or what, and then just haven't had adequate sparring. So some fighters, I think that's a mental thing sometimes, because when they win them fights, they never seem to think about the ring rust, you know. So I think it's a little bit mental there. Sometimes you can go into a fight with somebody and you can expect, because he's been inactive, he can be a bit ring rust as they say, but that's not always true, because sometimes fighters live in the gym. Now if you live in the gym and you have no time away, you don't have that, well, you have it less where you're going back on the ride, if that makes sense. You're always in the fair, you're not coming away from the fair. theme park. So yeah, I would advise fighters for reasons like this. If you are, I've just come off a fight, maybe you come off on a loss or a big fight and you're holding on for another big opportunity, whether that's like, I've just lost for the world title, now I'm gonna wait for another world title eliminator. Sometimes you can let time pass you by waiting for that call, and it doesn't come sometimes. So activity is so important, and sometimes you don't want to lose that, how can you say, the public image as you're up there, and then when you fight someone to build back up, now they put you're only as good as your last fight. So if you fight for a world title but lose, sometimes you're still better than fighting for a British title and winning, if that makes sense. So some fighters stay around that level, if you want to call it that, and ends up getting no activity, and then when a year's passed, they end up having to have that title fight, the British title fight, once again, just to get active again. You know, now activity is not a choice, activity is a necessity. So I would say that, yeah, staying in the gym and staying active is very, very important. It doesn't have to be, you can let the ego go to one side and just stay active. Even in the time, years gone by, the old time fighters, they used to, world champions would have activity, they'd be fighting 15 rounds for world titles, but then in between he'd have 10 round fights just to keep busy and to keep earning money and to keep on living as a fighter, you know. So I don't know what it was like for them fighters years ago, you know, if you were having 20 fights a year, 30 fights a year, what was in activity back then, you know, 3 fights a year, which is our normality now. So it's a bit odd, isn't it? It has to be a little bit mental to some degree, but then again, it is a thing, you know. You spend so long out the fair, then it's scary to get back on the rides, no matter who you are. So yeah, that was just a little explanation, just a quick one today, Family Ammo. I've been on here for a while, just touching base with you lot on YouTube. I've just got myself back on, not back on, well, I'm trying to get back on the social media. I just like letting it go sometimes. So I'm on TikTok now, so follow me. I think my name's just Jazza Dickens, I don't know. Jazza, I think it's just Jazza, I'm not too sure. But it's like the shorts that I've been putting on here every day, guess the fighter, which is, it's good, isn't it? Nobody's seemed to guess them all yet, so yeah, we'll test your boxing knowledge on there. So yeah, thank you for watching, Family Ammo. Please like, subscribe and leave a comment. You have a nice day.